Hello students, welcome you all in Civics class. Today we will discuss the point towards a new constitution. In our previous video, we have already discussed South African national movement and their struggle for freedom. Now today we are discussing the point towards a new constitution. Okay, chapter number 2, constitutional design. All of you open your book. Next, as protests and struggles against apartheid had increased, the government realized that they could no longer keep the blacks under their rule through repression. So as the protest and the struggle against the apartheid system, against the racial discrimination system had increased by the protester, the government realized, government means here the white government, right? So the white government realized that they could no longer keep the black under their rule through repression. So they have realized that they could no longer keep the blacks under their rule, by limiting freedom of blacks. Then what happened? The white regime changed their policies. Then the white government changed their policies. Discriminatory laws were repealed. So what happened? They changed their policies by repealing discriminatory law. Ban on political parties and restrictions on the media were lifted. So ban on political parties and restrictions on media were lifted by the white government. After 28 years of imprisonment, Nelson Mandela walked out of the jail as a free man. After 28 years, Nelson Mandela walked out of the jail as a free man. Finally, at the midnight of 26th April 1994, the new national flag of the Republic of South Africa was unfurled, marking the newly born democracy in the world. So, finally, at the midnight of 26th April 1994, the new democratic state of the Republic of South Africa emerged. Okay. The apartheid government came to an end, paving way for the formation of a multiracial government. The apartheid government came to an end, paving way for the formation of a multiracial government. Multiracial government means all the races, I mean white, blacks and color, mixed people, all of it there. Okay. Next, how did this come about? Let us hear Mandela, the first president of the new South Africa, on this extraordinary transition. So who was the first president of New South Africa? Nelson Mandela. It's his speech. Now read. Historical enemies succeeded in negotiating a peaceful transition from apartheid to democracy. Exactly because we were prepared to accept the inherent capacity for goodness in the other. My wish is that South Africans never give up on the belief in goodness, that they cherish that faith in human beings is the cornerstone of our democracy. It's the speech by Nelson Mandela. After the emergence of the newly democratic South Africa, blacks leaders appealed to fellow blacks to forgive the whites for the atrocities they had committed while in power. So what happened when the blacks leaders were there, when the multiracial government created after the democracy of South Africa, the black leaders appealed to their fellow blacks, to the citizen of South Africa, to the native citizen of South Africa. They appealed that please forgive the whites for the atrocities they had committed while in power. Okay, the bad behavior, the bad things, please forgive them. Okay, they said, let us build a new South Africa based on equality of all races and men and women, on democratic values, social justice and human rights. So they said that let us begin a new South Africa. A new South Africa. Okay, let us begin a new South Africa. Let us, change the mentality of the people. Okay, a new nation. Okay, a new nation based on what? Based on equality of all races, men and women, on democratic values, social justice and human rights. The party that ruled through oppression and brutal killings and the party that led the freedom struggle sat together to draw up a common constitution. So the party that led the freedom struggle sat together to draw up a common constitution. Okay, to draw up a common constitution. After 2 years of discussion and debate, they came out with one of the finest constitutions in the world has ever had. This constitution gave to its citizens the most extensive rights available in any country. After 2 years of discussion, at last, the Constitution of South Africa, after the debates, the discussion, they made a new constitution, which was the finest constitution of the world. Okay, one of the finest constitution of the world. The constitution gave the citizen the most extensive right available in any country. Together they decided that in the search for a solution to the problems, nobody should be excluded. No one should be treated as a demon. Okay, so they decided that in search for a solution to the problems, okay, nobody should be excluded. Everyone is included. Okay, no one should be treated as a demon, especially the white people. Okay, the white minority group. They agreed that everybody should become part of the solution, whatever they might have done or represent in the past. The preamble to the South African Constitution sums up this spirit. The preamble to the South African Constitution sums up this spirit. Preamble means, preamble part, it means the introductory statement. Okay, introductory statement in the Constitution. So, preamble to the South African Constitution, they sum up this spirit. Now, the next page. The South African Constitution inspires Democrats all over the world. A state denounced by the entire world till recently as the most undemocratic one is now seen as a model of democracy. So, the state denounced by the entire world till recently as the most undemocratic one is now seen as a model of democracy. What made this change possible was the determination of the people of South Africa to work together to transform bitter experiences into the binding glue of a rainbow nation. Speaking to the South African Constitution, Mandela said, "The Constitution of South Africa speaks of both the past and the future. On the one hand, it is a solemn pact in which we, as South Africans, declare to one another that we shall never permit a repetition of our racist, brutal and repressive past. But it is more than that. It is also a charter for the transformation of our country into one which is truly shared by all its people, a country which, in the fullest sense, belongs to all of us, black and white, women and men. So, the Constitution of South Africa speaks of both the past and the future, both for the women and the men. Okay? Now, our next point is, why do we need a constitution? It's very important question that came your mind, that why do we need a constitution, right? Actually, the Constitution of South African example is a good way to understand why we need a constitution and what do constitutions do. Actually, the South African example is very good way to understand why we need a constitution. We will discuss this. Okay. What do constitution do? The oppressor and the oppressed in this new democracy were planning to live together as equals. Now, oppressor means the white regime. Oppressed means native South Africans or blacks or colored people. So, after the independence, the oppressor group, it means white government, white minority group, and the oppressed group, black majority, in this new democracy were planning to live together as equal. Okay, they're planning to live together as equal rights, equality in everything. Okay, socially equal, economic equality, everywhere. So it was not going to be easy for them to trust each other. Yes, obviously it's not easy for them to trust each other, right? They had their fears. The whites have their own fears. The blacks have their own fears. They wanted to safeguard their interest. They both, the whites and the blacks, wanted to safeguard their interests. The black majority was keen to ensure that the democratic principle of majority rule was not compromised. So the black majority was keen to ensure that the democratic principle of majority rule was not compromised. Okay, was not compromised. They wanted substantial social and economic rights. They wanted substantial social and economic rights. The black majority wanted their social rights, their economic rights. The white minority, on the other hand, was keen to protect its privileges and property. The white minority was keen to protect its privileges and property. Now, the next page. After long negotiations, both parties agreed to a compromise. Both parties means the whites and the blacks both agreed to a compromise. After long negotiations, both parties agreed to a compromise. Both parties, the blacks and the whites, both agreed to a compromise. The whites agreed to the principle of majority rule and that of one person, one vote. The white minority agreed to the principle of majority rule and that of one person, one vote. Okay. So the white minority was keen to protect its privilege and property. So that's why after long negotiation, both of them, they agreed to compromise. Okay, the white agreed to the principle of majority rule and one person, one vote. They also agreed to accept some basic rights for the poor and the workers. The white minority also agreed to accept some basic rights for the poor people and for the workers. The blacks agreed that majority rule would not be absolute. Now, the blacks agreed that majority rule would not be absolute. Okay. Majority rule, the majority people's rule would not be absolute. They agreed that the majority would not take away the property of the white minority. They agreed that the majority would not take away the property of the white minority. They would not take away the property of the white minority. This compromise was not easy. This compromise was not easy for both the black and the whites. How was this compromise going to be implemented? Even if they managed to trust each other, what was the guarantee that this trust will not be broken in future? We will discuss the answer of this question in our next video. I think the concept is clear, student. That's all for today. Bye.